Everybody's talking about GOAT, UFC GOAT, is Islam Makhachev, is UFC GOAT. So who is UFC GOAT? Who is MMA GOAT? Today I'm going through different kind of stats and let you know that, that who is most probably UFC GOAT, and let's end this GOAT conversation. If you look at let's look at, so this is the footage from the Jon Jones before the fight, and if you look at him, he's talking about Islam Makhachev being the GOAT. Just
John, please, one question for Russian MMA fans. Islam Makhachev versus Cian Gary, what do you think about this fight?
Oh, I'm going with Islam because he has a wrestling background, and it's hard to beat wrestlers. So Islam, he may just be one of the greatest fighters in the world right now. It's me and maybe him. So I encourage him to keep going.
maybe him. But after the fight, he posed like this. He said, okay, title fight win, Jon Jones, then George St-Pierre, then Demetrious Johnson, then blah, 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 and then it was. So somehow everybody in this MMA had their own criteria, and then on the base of that, they say, okay, he's the GOAT and he's the GOAT. So longest win streak, so this is the GOAT. UFC most title defenses, this is the GOAT. Most division champion, and then the two division champion, and then defending in both, GOAT. So everybody is kind of putting their own different criterias and telling, okay, he's the GOAT. And to be honest, everybody choose the standard that suits him or their favorite fighter and just try to put that out. Just look at this. So here's Dana White talking about Islam Makhachev and why he is not the GOAT.
The GOAT status thing, right? Especially when it comes to Islam. There was a lot of talk about maybe he's got some more work to do and all that after the night. What other boxes do you think he needs to check to be considered the GOAT?
Well, I don't know what your opinion is, meaning all of you, but, if he didn't have that one loss on his record, it'd almost be a no-brainer. And this kid wants to fight all the time, stays active, and after tonight, and what he did tonight, he talks about...
So apparently loss is prohibiting Islam being the GOAT. The loss that he had way back and the loss he had against the opponent who is nobody. George St-Pierre had the loss, although he won against both of the people he lost against. But Jon Jones has lost, kind of disqualification, but still lost. Performance enhanced drug. Khabib doesn't have loss, but they don't put Khabib in the GOAT list. Why? Because it's not enough, which I can agree.
About 3-4 more fights, and so I think what you do is you just let this guy's career play out, and it's almost like what I keep saying about Zuffa boxing. Judge us at the end of this year, January of 2027. It's like.
Here is another MMA Joey. There is another YouTube channel. I just off and on look at it, and then he is kind of critiquing Ariel Helwani, just talking about the GOAT, and Ariel Helwani is talking about Anderson Silva being having the more having a better record because they have more title defenses, and his second fight was even title defense, and there's more title defenses in that winning streak make him GOAT rather than making Islam GOAT, which kind of have. Yeah, it's its own logic. It kind of makes sense, but MMA Joey making a point. No, look at the last 5 fights of the Islam, and he's just ending the different winning streak. So everybody is coming up with different. So Ariel Helwani is just taking that old point, and this is kind of MMA Joey's against it.
Division on short notice. Like, I found number 1 and on a 22 fight win streak. When he beat JDM was ranked in the pound for pound list. I don't know.
So kind of nitpicking. Okay, if he beat JDM, so JDM was top, and so there is no criteria on the basis of which you can compare. Doesn't matter in which era that fighter was. which is the best one. And yeah, if you listen to the Ariel Havani video that I just I think a couple of days ago, but after the fight UFC 330, they're just talking about who is the quote. And on the Jon Jones, they're talking about, oh, Jon Jones has never fought the person who was not rangy and longer and this and that. So they have their own point. And even UFC confused. Makhachev leave the UFC 330 firmly in a GOAT conversation. So there's a conversation going on. Why? Because we don't know what would be the conclusion of the conversation, what would be the criteria of the conversation, what would be the logic behind deciding is the GOAT or not. It would be subjective always. Okay, because this happened, so that's why. So completely subjective. So what we're going to do, we are going to look at a little bit objectively. So what I have done a little bit homework, and so before jumping into this, I have made 3 different lists. So we'll go with this one. So we will set this assumption before going through the process of deciding who is a GOAT. So does title when decide the person more title when decide the person is greatest of all times or not? No, because the title defense might be the person's vacant title and the other person comes up and who is not. That can happen. And one person who just got earlier title defense, like the Anderson Silva, and the one person who got later title defense, there is an unjust criteria. So putting that criteria aside, the other one is does the longest winning streak make it greatest of all time? No, I don't think so. You can keep winning and have I mean, not good opponents and not being in maybe you have before MMA records, just before MMA, sorry, before UFC, you have a MMA fights which in kind of organization which doesn't have the good contenders, and you have like 20 wins. So does that win translate your record into the good conversation even you just have a good record in the UFC? I don't think so. So what decides the GOAT criteria? So I think so. Your opponent decide if you are a GOAT or not. Who you beat. So then we have to check not the quantity of the wins, but the quality of the wins, the opponent that they fought. What was the record of the opponent? So we are going through a list in which we will look at the contenders of the GOAT, which are 6 here. I put in these documents. Which person they fought, what were their record when they fought, how many wins their opponent has, how many losses their opponent has. So on the basis of the opponent's record, who has the best opponents? It's completely statistical. So here come a question. Suppose one person has more fights, so they have more opponents, so they have a chances of fighting an opponent, 20 opponent. Other person has fighting a chances of 10 opponents in the UFC, because we are totally talking about the UFC fight. We are not going beyond, because here here is the conversation is about UFC GOAT, and UFC is the top tier in MMA, so it doesn't make sense to go beyond that. So if somebody has more fight, what about that? So for that, we will calculate the average. Average win and loss are the net record of the opponent per fight. So we will divide the total wins with it with total fights, divide total loss divided by total fights, and net, which is basically is wins minus losses, and wins and losses of the opponent they fought. So net would be 8, and here would be the net kind of representing the strength of their opponent. And when we divide the total net with the total number of fights, we'll get the average strength of their opponents within the UFC. And the opponent record in this document is overall record, including UFC and uh, uh, beyond UFC if they fought earlier. But this opponent record is total uh, total opponent record before the fight. I mean, when they are fighting, because the fighter after the fight they may be they keep fighting later and later, and then at the end the fighter maybe get more loss or more wins or whatever. So the strength of the opponent is being judged at the time of the fight. What is their record at the fighting time? That's the first one. I'll explain the other one, but we'll go through this one. So George St-Pierre has total 20 wins, and opponents they fought in those 20 fights, they have total of 392 wins. So these are this column represent the total one of the opponents, and these are the total loss of the opponents, and these are the net. So basically, if we sum up all the wins and all the losses of their opponents in the whole UFC run and subtract them, then that will be the net. So their opponent total win record was 392, loss record was 71, 320. So this is the number basically which represent the strength, overall raw strength of their opponent they fought within UFC. And if we divide 321 with 20, because then it becomes 16.05, it means that that number 16.05 represent the average strength of their opponent per fight within UFC. I hope you got it. Jumps up to the Jones. I'm not saying this is the top one. We'll go on the base of this criteria who is at the top. Next go to Jon Jones. So it's 22, two more fights. Opponent total 391. You look at this, it's a 392, it's 391. Even at Raw, it's Jon Jones a little bit behind, and 88 more losses. So if you just divide, it's 303. Here they have the 321. So if you're comparing with even George St-Pierre with this, more fights, and their opponent has 391 total wins, 88 losses. So net was 303, and if you divide this with 22, we got total 2. So average fight strength of their opponent was 13.77, which is below than Jon St-Pierre. So you can see Jon St-Pierre is at top still. Islam Makhachev, 18 fights. So fights are less than Jon Jones and George St-Pierre. And here, if you look at total win 390, so raw 390, and losses are 99. So in this case, below than both of them. Overall raw number is kind of lower than the other two one, 391, and they had 392, and it just has 390, and then 99, this 291. But we divide with 18, we got 16.16, which is be more than that. So now Islam would have the 19 and 20th fight, maybe Morales, and then Carlos Prates, and that will define that will make him equal to George St-Pierre in number of fights, and then we will see that when the the denominator increases from 18 to 20, we see how does this average play. But right now it is a little bit above the George St-Pierre. Anderson Silva's I don't know how Silva. So 17 wins, 313 opponent wins. People are talking about, oh, he fought that, he has more impressive. I don't think so. Maybe the finishing record is maybe the finishing rate is high, maybe they have the more entertainment, and so, but we are not talking about the goal of entertainment. We're not talking about uh, who have more stylish. We are talking about goat of MMA, mixed martial art, which would be defined on the base of wins, not only quantity but quality of win, which is defined by the opponent. So 313, 80, and then we have 233, and then we divide it in 13.3, which is 13.7, which is below than all of above. So Demetrious Johnson, 15 UFC wins. Did I get it right? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, maybe I messed up. Here, I'll double check it, but mm, the final fight of Demetrious Johnson was not 200 to 2017. I think he fought 2023. Maybe he fought in one championship. That was the last fight. Okay. Yeah, Henry Cejudo, he lost. He won Henry Cejudo in 2016. Okay, okay. I think it's the right one, but yeah, I'll double check. And correct me in the comments if you think that I made a mistake at some point. Anyhow, 247, 47 to 200 divided with 15, we got 13.3, which is a little bit less than the Anderson Silva. Going to Khabib Nurmagomedov. So 234, 13 wins just in the UFC. 63, 171 divided with this 13.15. Kind of same in Anderson Silva, Khabib, and then this one. Then came the Alexander Volkanovski. Nobody's talking about him being a GOAT. Total win in UFC 15. 289. 63, 226, and divided with 15, it is 15.06, which is more than Khabib, more than Anderson, more than Demetrious Johnson. Here, and there's a bunch of the references and everything that I put. So now let's compare them. I have a big table at the top which will show you. So here you go. Islam Makhachev at the top with 16.167 average net strength of the opponent in the term of wins and losses of their record at the time of fight in UFC. Again, that record include overall record before the fight they have, including UFC and the previous uh, organization they fought. I'm talking about the opponent, not the the fight the fighter which are the potential contender of GOAT. The second is the George St-Pierre, then Alexander Volkanovski, Jon Jones. So you see a Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, Demetrious Johnson, Khabib, they all are gone. So we don't know their number would change or not. And George St-Pierre is gone as well. But Islam and Alexander both are active. Alexander has fight coming up with Mavsar Ivleov, and Islam may fight in December with Carlos Prates, and then uh, Michael Morales, which has no loss. So, and Mavsar Ivleov have no loss. So if Alexander won against Mavsar Ivleov, it will increase that win column, and that net would increase. And probably, I don't think so, it will jump beyond. Maybe it jumped 16. I don't know. We'll just see when the fight happened and after that. But this uh, this make the Islam and Alexander the active fighter at the top. And if Islam get its winning streak 17 to 20. So here it's 18. It's not, it's the first fight he won and then he lost. So total he has 17 winning streak. And that's 18 is the total wins because he has total 19 fights in UFC. He lost one. So and again, I'm including the losses here who against the loss because it's completely on the base of wins who against whom they won. So because there is a loss can happen at any time, like in case of Islam Makhachev, it happened like personhood, it doesn't matter anymore. In case of Alexander, I don't think so. He lost before Islam, but yeah. So that's how the criteria for the GOAT selection should be. I have a couple of others documents that I prepared, and these are basically UFC GOAT opponents UFC record at fight time, and so this record was overall record of opponent at fight time. This is their UFC record at fight time. So if you take this in account, in this case, John St-Pierre has 20 fights against, but here the their record of their opponent is what was their record at fight time. You can see that he's fighting people who have 0-0 record and just kind of debuting, and then George Merritt is fighting with them. So here this kind of put total net 103. It puts the averages are on the top, but yeah, it has 106 in case of Jon Jones. You can see the person they are fighting because these are their record at UFC record at the time of fighting. And then it comes the Islam Makhachev, which is like, again, there are some 0-0 Leo Kunz and just Arman Sarukian. Oh, it was a debut fight of Arman Sarukian, so 0-0. Look at this. So how much this plays a role. Arman Sarukian being a very good record in the previous, here it comes 0-0. So it's kind of shuffling things to doing changing things and see still Jon Jones comes up, still Alex comes up at the same position that it was. So yeah, when Alex fought was 12-0, and then after the loss he fought 13-1. There you go. So it kind of mixed things up, and then see, and Ian Machado Gary has 10-1 in UFC record when he fought. Okay, 113. Here it has 61. Anderson Silva has just 61. Can you imagine? My God. So not even 3 digits. Everybody has 3 digit, including GSP, Jon Jones, Islam Makhachev, and Anderson Silva 61. Not at all. Demetrious Johnson 39. Khabib 54. Alex 88. So the people I think so who started their career a little earlier, the people they were fighting, they have very they were not much experience in this, even though look at the Diego Lopez is so even on the base of this, look how the final table changed. Still Islam Makhachev coming at the top, 6.278 the average opponent strength per fight. Raw 113, even raw a win lose net rate is also even higher. So number 2 LX 5.8, GSP number 3rd, overall win is even higher, but when we divide the number of fights, then the real thing comes up. It's kind of, we can say, normalized average, normalized ranking, because on the basis of this overall win ranking, it would be Islam first, and then you can say the John, and then the GSP. So 3rd GSP, Jon Jones. You can see Khabib, Silva, Anderson is gone. So again, Islam Alex is on tie here. 5 point. Okay, it's not tie. 5.8 and 6.2, but still. there is a thing. And the finally, this one is their opponent's record, overall record, even not at the time of fighting, but overall UFC record. Even after they fought, what their current record, their opponent current record, or even at the completion of their UFC. So it's kind of moving on step ahead. It's not like the first one where we talk about total. So I want to make a little difference. The first one we talked about was the opponent's total win loss record, and that and opponent win loss record was total. It was not just the UFC record, but their total record, including other organization they fought, not amateur but pro. And that record was at the time of fighting. But in second, we only include the UFC record. But UFC record was all only when they fought at the time of fight, what record they have. And the finally, it is again only UFC record, but this one is overall. Like Arman Sulikin fought Islam Makhachev 0-0. But now, what is his record in UFC? So 10-2. It was 0-0. If he okay at the time of fight, now it's 10-2. So that's how it plays out. Anyhow, so let's look at GSP. It jumps to 60. What does GSP has in previous case? Okay. So its net is 60. Yeah, okay. That's crazy. Jon Jones 85, Islam 105. Oh yeah. I think I kind of mixed up somewhere. Let me see. The GSP had 103, 106, 113 here, and then Silva, and then just double figure. So these were the, let's jump into UFC opponent's UFC record at the time of fight. Okay. And this is the opponent's UFC only carrier record. Okay. Okay. So I was confused because that number went below. I was thinking it's supposed to go a little up, but the reason behind it go down is because the losses after completion of the record, the losses accumulate in case of the George St-Pierre. So that's why that number. Look at this total 203, 143, so 60. So it means that the people, the opponent that he fought, the total number of losses increased after the fight, because in this case you will see that it was 140-37. So at the time of fighting their record was good, but after the fighting it was 140-37, 103. But in this case 1203 went increase, but in huge increase in the losses overall. I mean after that, anyhow, which it's kind of affect the GSP record and put it down. So and another way we can interpret in a way that it means after fighting that they maybe tested more and more and more with other contender later, even when GSP retired, maybe uh, so they accumulated more losses. It means they were not good enough. So if they accumulated more losses, and it means they were not good enough, so that will decrease the score of GSP as well. So similarly with the other fighter, which is another good factor to put in and see how that changed the ranking of the different potential GOATs. Okay, Jon Jones, 237 and 152 it can 85. It also went down 237 wins and 152 losses from yeah, from this one. So this, I'm just jumping back and forth. Sorry, so this was before, but now we are talking about this one. This now 237. So it also accumulated and went down. And 105 in case of Islam Makhachev also went down. It was 113 before. So everybody is being affected, but some are being affected more. Uh, yeah, especially I think so more affected would the people affected would be who were uh who were retired, because the opponent they fought, they have completed their career, their opponents, and they retired, so they have complete record. But the people who are still active, they fought some people who are there are some opponents and fighters who are still fighting and their record is not complete, so they accumulate maybe more losses, and then their ranking maybe fluctuate a little bit later as well. Anyhow, Silva way down 55. Demetrious Johnson 160, 80, 36, way down. Khabib 35. Volkanovski 76, a little bit retaining. So let's check this one. So so this is the again it's 5.8. You can see the average net is being decreased, but still the kind of, you can see Islam and Alex Volkanovski is coming at the top. In case if we just look, we are just looking at the UFC record, both are coming at the top. And then I think so it's a little bit it's a more reliable way to look at, because we don't know. In a start we talked about the opponent record, which was not even on the uh UFC. They were fought in the different organization, so we don't know how legit it was. So some people coming from, like, I don't know, I don't want to name any country, but there's this the kind of having a made up record or something like this. So I think so this and then the only you having the UFC record of their opponent have a more legit way to analyze this. So anyhow, what is it? I'm gonna just quickly go through all of that. So that was the first one. It was the UFC GOAT strength of defeated opposition, overall record of the opponent. Islam top, GSP second, Alex third, Jones fourth, Silva fifth, Demetrious, and then so GSP is retired. Islam, Alex, GSP is tie between them. Jones is way behind. We are not talking about the performance enhancer drug. We are not talking about disqualification. We are not talking about the losses here. That's our assumption. We remove them, and that's totally as objective as we can be. And when we talk about that's the second one. Opponents only UFC record. Previous one was the overall record. This UFC record. Islam top, Alex second, GSP 3. So it's top 3 are just again same. Here a little bit change, because here we are talking UFC total record. So the people who retired, I mean Jones is kind of retired, GSP is retired. It's only this fluctuation happened in this one, but retired, their opponents already lost more because they have completed their, most of them have completed their MMA journey. Like Michael Bisping fought GSP, is also retired, and all the people. So John DSTC fought with Jon Jones, retired. So like this. But what the pattern that we are seeing is, in all cases, these two, these two, these two. So there is a no question Islam is at the top. there is no question Alex and GSP is dying. So maybe Islam went down and GSP still would be at the top, and it would make sense even if you just look at the record as well. There's two losses, and all the two losses he again won on those people, and maybe he come at the top after again another fight Islam have. But again, we are not accounting here for the losses, but that's we're just talking about the wins. If Islam win against another fight, it might add up, and if he will win against Morales, it will add up more, I think, so as compared to the Protes, because Protes has losses, which will increase this number here as well, and the net would be less as compared to Morales, if I'm correct. So yeah, so that's, I think the UFC should come up with this criteria, not exactly if it is just kind of the baseline, and I think so this is a legit baseline. If they can add different other variable and come up with that kind of thing, but they are just having this meta ranking and this ranking and that ranking. I don't know what bullshit thing they are being on the basis of what they are trying to do that ranking. But yeah, everybody should know that this is the criteria for that, and I think that would make more sense even for the fighter jumping in the GOAT conversation. The reason would be the fighter would like to fight the people who have a good record rather than just kind of fighting the just accumulating wins against the people who against the fighter who doesn't have a good record, and just so all the confusion and all the content that I consumed about, okay, who is the GOAT after UFC 380? Okay, Islam is the GOAT, Islam is not the GOAT, then the Anderson Silva is the GOAT, Jon Jones is the GOAT. I don't know. So that's it. And I'll put up these. And if you think that I made mistakes somewhere and put, because it was a long kind of data accumulation and everything, please let me know. I'll correct those, and I'll just put up those document. And yeah, keep watching, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.